Time now for everyone's favorite segment of the week. It is time.
It's time for a good old-fashioned Q&A, MMA fans.
Day of Reckoning press conference in Las Vegas. In London. And tomorrow, I'm told, Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury press conference for February 17th. I mean, there is a lot going on in the world of boxing. Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua both will be in action. Not against each other, unfortunately, but they'll both be in action. Dimitri Bivol, Daniel Dubois, a whole bunch of guys are going to be on that card. It's a crazy, crazy time, and it's going to be obviously at Riyadh season, Saudi Arabia. Shout out to His Excellency. I mean, what a lineup this is. I can't wait to sink my teeth into all of that and more. I do want to let you know that today's On the Nose segment is brought to you by our good friends over at Kraken. Kraken, see what crypto can be. Go check them out. Please support them because they support us. Swimming in ads, Frank, we are. Swimming.
Look at
is that. Is that a sign of... oh, there it is. Wow.
It's like a little Kraken.
Yeah. I'm a big fan. Are they related to the hockey team?
Unfortunately not.
Still a great name.
In name, yes.
Still a great name. Well, we appreciate their support very much, and go check them out. Let's get into the questions, Frank. Questions today, good, bad? What do you think?
They are great.
Okay, all right. I look forward. Sonatos, gelatos. Greetings, chaps. Following on from what Francis has just done. By the way, top 10 in WBC. Do you guys see that? Top 10 in the WBC. Still unclear how many bags of popcorn he sold at the event, and, whether they had empanadas or not. But as far as, a distinction, that's a pretty big one, if you ask me. For Tom Aspinall to become the GOAT.
Oh, there, Frankie. I love it.
Freaking, it's almost like he knew what I was about to read. One of the many reasons why it's great to have him as the moderator around these parts. And shout out to our new moderators over on the YouTube chat. Hello, guys. OC and Brandon. We appreciate you very much.
Don't forget the quotas.
The what?
The banning quotas.
Oh, right. Yes. Assuming he beats John Jones, do you think he'll eventually have to go and take on Francis in the PFL and then take on the boxing heavyweight champ as well? Jeez Louise. In other words, is that what the bar is now? Much love and respect to the whole crew. No, it's not. The Francis thing is a very unique thing. Tom Aspinall fights John Jones and beats him, and then fights Cyril Gane, and then fights Jalton Almeida, and then fights... there's plenty of fights for him. Curtis Blades. I don't think anyone... By the way, this is a guy who left MMA for a bit to travel down the boxing path, who has sparred the likes of Tyson Fury, among many others, sparred the likes of Rico Verhoeven, among many others. So I have no doubt that Tom Aspinall could be very, very, very successful in boxing, but he's also amazing at MMA, and he's got incredible grappling skills, and his dad with his BJJ background. Why? He doesn't need to do that. Maybe somewhere down the line, he's 30 years old, he can do it, but there's enough for him to do at this point in MMA. So I don't think that we need to judge him based on what Francis did. And don't forget, Francis was in the UFC for quite some time as well and had some really big fights before he was able to go down this path. So now the next fight that I want to see is Big Tom versus Big John. That's the one. Let's see if it happens. Ski. There's a workaround for Steve-O's issue with ESPN Plus. Wow, this is exciting. So that one doesn't have to scroll through the fights listed to get the full card. Upon opening the ESPN Plus app or website, simply go directly to the search bar and enter prelims. This will bring up the full prelims of the most recent card in English and Spanish with a spoiler-free thumbnail, thanks to Mr. O. That is correct. For the main card, do the same with main card. Thought I'd share it here in case anyone runs into the same issue. So basically, instead of going to UFC and then seeing all the thumbnails, just type in prelims and there'll be no time code attached to it. There'll be no TRT, total running time, attached to it. That's pretty big. Should I try it right now, Frank?
I don't think now is a good time.
Why? I'm going to do it right now. ESPN
Why
Plus.
would you ask my opinion and then...
I'm just wondering what your... Okay, so I'm typing in prelims. First thing I got was the Georgia Fall Invitational prelims for swimming.
Sick.
Then there's the Georgia Fall Invitational prelims for diving.
Even better.
More swimming, more diving. And now I get to on-demand prelims, UFC 295. It says 2 hours, but it's just the entire prelim. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's the entire thing, not broken up into fight. So he's right. This man is right.
I love it.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Ski. I will let Steve-O know that. Style Gemder. Hey, question for the entire crew. This question relates to Alex Pereira's post-fight outstanding speech directed at Izzy, which has since had a video put together on X showing the Izzy interview he's referencing, and then to his post-fight speech with the correct translation. I truly believe if Alex spoke better English, or even if Fabiano had been translating, this would have gone down in my eyes as the greatest ever. It was incredible. My question to all of you is, between you, can you each pick one post-fight speech that sticks with you as the greatest? So yes, I mean, historically, you can say anyone who speaks English, especially when you're in America fighting in New York, like the message is just going to go further. You got to give Alex a lot of credit. He is beloved. I was talking to people who were at the fight, like he got the biggest pop. People love the guy, and rightfully so. What he's done is nothing short of amazing. It does lead one to wonder how much bigger he could actually be if he did speak just a little bit, but he doesn't need to because of his demeanor, because of his aura, because of like how stoic he is. That speaks volumes. We had said the same thing back in the day about the likes of Anderson Silva when he didn't speak English, Jose Aldo didn't speak English, Fyodor Emelianenko. They were all legends, superstars, beloved, but you do wonder. It's not a necessity. No one has to do anything. But yes, you do wonder. It was great in its own right. And remember, Plinio is his coach. He's not a translator, but he feels most comfortable with him. And so I remember one point in that conversation, in that post-fight interview, Joe Rogan asked him to clap because he never actually said Izzy's name. And he's like, are you talking about Izzy or something like that? And so maybe if that was said, but nitpicking, it was great. And he shot for the moon. It's the biggest fight possible for him right now in terms of, buzz, money that can be made, etc. When I think of epic post-fight interviews, there's a lot. I will be honest, the first one that came to mind right here and now was Nate Diaz after beating Michael Johnson in 2015 and saying, Conor McGregor, you took everything that I worked for. There's a very strong case to be made if he doesn't say that, if he doesn't zero in on Conor. And remember, Conor was just coming off a featherweight title win over Jose Aldo the week before. Diaz was nowhere near his orbit. He's fighting at 155. In the moment, people are like, oh man, this is nuts, but like there's no chance this is going to happen. Conor gets booked against RDA at 155. RDA gets hurt. They end up fighting at 196, and it turns into one of the great rivalries in the history of the sport. So that was gigantic. Conor after Diego Brandao, gigantic. We're not here to take part. We're here to take over. You can call me Mystic Mac. That was after the Dustin Poirier fight. The post-fight speech after Eddie Alvarez at MSG was historic. Of course, I've talked about the Daniel Cormier, John Jones, get your shit together speech, post-fight speech. That was a great one as well. So those are a few that come to mind. Nick Diaz saying, where you at, George? Back at, I think it was UFC 139. George St. Pierre getting in there when Matt Hughes had just won, saying, I'm not impressed with your performance. Not your traditional post-fight speech because it was Hughes who had just fought, but just like a post-fight situation. And you're quick. Am I missing an old school one? Anyone that comes to mind that I didn't mention?
No, you hit the most of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a gazillion, but there and then there's like the emotional ones. I remember DC after he beat Stipe. That was a very emotional one, saying that like he had been waiting for this moment to be called the best for so long. That was great. So yeah, there's been a ton of them. Nate after he beat Anthony Pettis, saying, I'm not going to defend this belt against Jorge Masvidal. And everyone's like, what belt? And he just created a belt. That was tremendous. Scott, good day, Ariel. I've tried and tried, but just cannot get past the mysterious one, but here it goes. Wow.
1 second. Pandering doesn't usually work on me. So I don't want to,
okay.
Don't put this kind of thing in the question.
Okay,
right.
Sure. I mean, you could have deleted it, but
yeah, but
you wanted to prove a point.
Right.
Fair enough. With this looking like the end of Bellator, how do you feel about one less promotion, and how do you think the PFL can best utilize Bellator stars? You're the man. Thank you. Look, it's mixed feelings because it's whenever this gets announced, and I suspect sooner rather than later, it's going to be a very interesting story to cover and follow. And I'm really curious to see what they do. Again, as we've talked about, PFL's TV deal is up here in America. That's a gigantic piece of business. When Don Davis was on, founder of the PFL, it seemed like he was leaning towards re-signing with ESPN, and I would say that's a really good idea. Now the question is, once they take over Bellator, what are they going to do with all the fighters? How many of them are going to come over? Are they going to run Bellator as a separate entity and get them their own TV deal, which is what UFC did with the likes of WEC back in the day, and for a little bit Strikeforce? There's a lot of questions that are going to have to be answered in the next couple months. PFL has a lot of pieces of business going on right now. They've got the American TV deal. They've got their Challengers deal. They've got PFL Europe. And now they're trying to expand to the Middle East, to Africa, etc. So I'm really curious. I mean, they could certainly use the fighters. They certainly have the real estate and the slots for them. But how are they going to stick with their old format? Are those, are the AJ McKees and Johnny Eblins of the world going to want to be a part of a format like that? It's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. It's going to be a fascinating story to watch. And the timing is really interesting. Like, if they announce this soon, Bellator's last event was Friday, their finale is this coming Friday, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on PFL as we round out 2023. On the flip side of that, yes, of course, I'm always in favor of the fighters having as many options, as many places to negotiate with, to fight for as possible. So this is a big blow. Number 2 is gone. And you can make a very strong case that Bellator wasn't number 2 anymore because their momentum has really been halted. I mean, like they are going out with a whimper. That's just the facts. Like, I mean, I couldn't believe that the final show was this weekend. I totally forgot. It's just like I see no promotion for it whatsoever. It's crazy. And it's an amazing card. This is an amazing card. Like, look at the names. I pulled this up earlier. Look at the names on this card. Yaroslav Amosov against Jason Jackson. Sergio Pettis against Patchy Mix. I would argue that fight should be the main event, especially it being in Chicago. And Sergio's from nearby Milwaukee, but whatever. Rafion Stotts against Danny Sabatello, the rematch. AJ McKee against Sydney Outlaw. Tricky Pitbull against Alexander Shabley. Terrell Fortune, Denise Colhetz. I mean, just those names alone. There's a freaking 16 fights on this card. Jeez Louise. But I mean, those top 5 fights are great. Those are some of the biggest names in the history of Bellator. I see no buzz for it. I see nothing.
Can I make a statement and then ask you a question?
Sure.
Statement is, I mean, if we know the end is near, there would be no promotion, right? Like, it would be silly to put promotion into something where this is the last gasp, right?
Sure.
Like, why promote it? Let it fade off into the darkness. The question is, I keep hearing about running Bellator separately. Why? What is the point of that? I'm not comprehending what the point of that is.
So
it was unsuccessful on its own when people were dedicated to it and running it. And now you're taking it and saying, well, we're going to keep it as this side thing that's going to run also, rather than absorbing the talent when the talent is the thing that PFL needs the most. Like, it just does not compute for me. It doesn't make any sense to me.
To be clear, this is not what I want as a fan. If you're taking over the opposition...
but I hear this.
No, and I'll explain why. But when you're taking over the opposition, like, the most fun... Like, when WWF took over WCW, we didn't want to see WCW running as a separate organization. We wanted to see Goldberg against Brock Lesnar. So I couldn't agree more. There's one major reason why you do this. Well, maybe 2. The Bellator name does have clout to a degree in Europe. They've done a pretty good job in Europe, way more than here in America. But that's not even reason number 1. I would suspect, though, if they keep it running, it would be primarily in Europe because it has more clout than, say, PFL Europe. But that's not the main reason. The main reason is what I said earlier. You could get 2 TV deals. You can splinter your TV deals. There's a reason why PFL Europe is not shown in America. The reason why PFL Europe is not shown in America is because ESPN says we have the exclusive rights to PFL in America. And so you cannot show this PFL Europe brand here, and that's why the American fans have missed out on Cedric Doumbé and Dakota Dacheva and Simeon Powell, et cetera, which is a travesty because those have been some of their best events of the year, and they're going to have their finale on December 8th. And as of right this second, we're not going to be able to see it here in America. And so just like back in the day, Zuffa was able to cut a deal with Versus for WEC and have that extra revenue stream when they needed it back then, not so much these days. These days, they have that extra revenue stream coming from the likes of Rumble. PFL in this particular scenario is saying, okay, maybe we could have our ESPN deal and we can have our Bellator deal with BBC or God knows who over in Europe or even in America, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see how it plays out. I don't know the answer to this question. All I know is from talking to enough people, this is something that is being considered. Ultimately, does it end up this way? I don't know. We're going to find out, and I can't wait to be able to talk to the likes of Don Davis about this whenever this gets finalized, and I hope it's sooner rather than later. But that would be the reason. So you can get that extra revenue stream for 1, 2, 3 years as you're growing your brand. But
I mean, philosophically, it makes sense.
From a sporting standpoint, it's annoying because like you're owned by the same company. Let's see the fights. And maybe you work towards like a Super Bowl of sorts at the end of the year where it's like one big championship card on pay-per-view. There's ways to mesh the two, but I generally agree with what you're saying, your sentiment.
What you're saying all makes sense if Bellator had value. And I think what is clear is they don't have value. Like that is why this is happening. Like if Bellator had a value that could be worth a massive TV deal, then they wouldn't be going out of business or wouldn't be sold off or wouldn't be closing down shop. And so an inferior product being given out.
It's hard to say. I mean, Showtime.
There might be efficiencies of scale. That's where it is. Is like if PFL has the infrastructure to support the two things and maybe Showtime and Bellator didn't, sure. But I'm dubious of the idea that like the Bellator brand is valuable in the marketplace to the point that you would keep it running. What I would do is obvious, and I don't know the financials. So there's people within PFL who are going to purchase this, have much more insight into this and understanding of it than I do. But it feels like enhancing the PFL brand should be number one priority rather than whatever TV deal could be had.
My number one idea, I stand by it. What I said many months ago is take 5 guys from Bellator, take 5 PFL guys, and your season next year is PFL versus Bellator.
That'd be sick.
And each division is 10 fighters, and it's, pick them. AJ and Patricky and Patricia, and they're all going up against the 5 best in PFL. And then you fill out the rest of the cards with, non-tournament fights, or you put those guys in Europe, et cetera, et cetera. But that's to me the best way to use the brand. Invasion.
Agreed.
Let's see. It's going to be a fascinating story to follow. Amit. Hi, Ariel. I always enjoy the Action Bronson interviews. If you can have any 90s hip hop artists on the show in studio to talk life and some MMA, who would it be? Wow. Well, I'll tell you the first one that came to mind was Jay-Z. He doesn't do a lot of interviews. Tupac was one of my favorites, unfortunately no longer with us. I love Biggie as well. So yeah, Jay-Z would come to mind. I was a big Wyclef Jean fan back in the day. I was a big Warren G fan back in the day. I was a big Nas fan back in the day. I was a big Cannabis fan back in the day, or is it Can I Bus? I think it's actually pronounced Can I Bus. Second Round Knockout. Everyone knows that song and loves it. If I had to pick one, I think probably the most fascinating one would be Jay-Z. What do you think, Rick? As a New York boy who grew up in the rap scene here, from the Boogie down.
Yeah, Nas. Yeah.
You're more of a Nas guy than Jay-Z, huh?
I'm a Nas guy. I mean, Queens,
Yeah.
Queens is the home. Home is where the heart is, but Jay-Z's kind of undeniable at this point. The resume kind of speaks, no?
Yeah, and you just don't really see him doing many interviews. I saw him do an interview recently with CBS because at the Brooklyn Public Library, there's a whole exhibition in his honor, which looks tremendous. Frank, do you have a pick? Which 90s rap star would you love to see on the program?
Jay-Z.
Yeah. I would, I would be down to interview as many members of the Wu-Tang Clan,
That's a good point, too. But just bring them all. I mean, like, is there a New York-based rapper that you don't like from the 90s?
Nah, they're all great.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Kit's Corner. First, a massive thank you to New York Rick. The wedding scammer is A+ stuff. Do you recommend a similar podcast? Okay, the fights. Do you recommend another podcast, New York Rick? Kit's Corner seemed to like your wedding scammer one.
It's not like most of the other ones I listen to are weekly programs, not like an episode of content like that. But obviously, you can't go wrong with Serial, right? The various incarnations, iterations
Shout
of
out.
Serial have been great. But yeah, that's the one I'm really vibing with the most. The Wedding Scammer is A++.
I want to give a shout out to Peter Kafka of Recode. He does a podcast for Vox and is the host of the Recode pod. And they just did a 4-part series on Twitter called Land of the Giants. And I think the last one just ran or just got posted, and I heard it's great. So if you're looking for an episodic podcast to follow, a series, maybe that one is of interest. And it's not just like the current iteration of Twitter. It's from the beginning to now. So he told me Elon Musk is just in one episode, not an interview with him, but just like the topic of Elon Musk. Anyway, on to the fights. Okay, he says, Kids Corner does, I had this feeling that Glory and Rizin are no joke. My feelings were confirmed Saturday night. Yuri versus Alex was great. Everything about it was great. Stare down with some intense stuff. Anyway, it felt like evidence for the UFC. There are promotions out there with guys like that headlining MSG. Okay, yes, there are. It's not just UFC fighters. There's great fighters all over the world in all kinds of promotions. 2, if the fighter says he was out, let's all just move on. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of fighters that have won a fight after a flash KO, but for the sake of the argument, let's not get into the refereeing this week. Okay, fine. I don't think we really harped on it. I mean, just my feeling that it was a little premature, but I definitely didn't harp on it as much as I did the Izzy Pereira finish of last year. I feel the refs have a much harder job than the judges. So do I. And every time I talk about Mark Goddard, I always say I think he's the best referee in the game.
And you're not wrong.
And I don't think I am. And it would be like someone saying Ariel Helwani sucks, but he's the best in the game. I can live with that. Or maybe Ariel Helwani's interview with so-and-so sucked, because how could I be the best if I just suck, period, right? Anyway, he continues, they deserve more slack in these cases. Number 3, that live show on Friday was awesome. That should be a November ritual moving forward. What about more than just November? What about once a quarter? What do you think, Kids Corner?
He's not able to answer back.
Yeah, I was just throwing it out there. James, hey, Ariel and gang. My wife and I had a blast at the live show on Friday. The energy and surprise guests were incredible. I also attended the Ringer meetup last year. With the success of the live show, are there any plans to bring the show on the road? Wouldn't you know it? Yes, there are plenty plans. And we're going to blow this out. Merch tables, surprise guests. We're just getting started, my friends. There's something special here. And it's something that I've wanted to do for quite some time. And, you know, Joe Rogan deserves a lot of credit for this, because back in the day, I'm talking like 2008, 2009, 2010, he was a staple with doing a comedy show after the weigh-ins on the Friday before the event. And I always thought that was brilliant. So if we were in Vancouver, he's doing it. If we're in Denver, he's doing it. If we're in Fort Lauderdale, he's doing it. If we're in Houston, he's doing it. Vegas, etc. There's something there, because fans are looking for something to do, and especially our show is very much geared towards MMA, combat. It's a no-brainer. And maybe we're going to all kinds of big events. Maybe we're going to Riyadh for Day of Reckoning. Maybe we're going to Philly for WrestleMania 40. Maybe we're going to Wembley for AEW All Out. You never know. You never know, Frank. But yes, as they like to say in some parts of the world, watch this space. Kai, greetings, Ariel and crew. You've often talked about the creation of an independent MMA Hall of Fame. This is true. If it were up to you, what would be your definitive criteria and eligibility rules for potential inductees? Love the idea of the Independent Hall of Fame and hope to see it come to fruition sooner rather than later. Love and respect from Bedfordshire, England. Much love. Well, I like how they do it in other sports where you have to be retired for 4 years. And that's pretty much it. So there's going to be a plethora of guys who are eligible right off the bat, right? Fedor wouldn't be eligible off the bat because he just fought, but Randy Couture would be, and Frank Shamrock and Ken Shamrock and Hoist Gracie and people like that would be. And so, retired for 4 years. But then there's, other people who don't really fit that mold. Like a coach could go in at any time. A promoter can go in at any time. Someone like a Mark Ratner could go in at any time just for the athletes. And maybe it's 2 years. Maybe we want to expedite it. This is like minutia stuff that my committee will work on. Yes, my committee. But mainly what I want to see is probably in Las Vegas, it makes most sense, an actual physical building fans can visit, fighters can visit, with a induction ceremony once a year. I don't think I'm reinventing the wheel here. This isn't a big deal. Independent MMA Hall of Fame, a place where the legends of this sport who have fought from Japan to Australia to Russia to America and everywhere in between, a place for them to be recognized, to be remembered, a place for them to visit, a place for us to visit, a place for fans to learn about the history of the sport, even before 1993, to learn about Shudo and Pancrase, to learn about, Inoki versus Ali in 1976, I believe it was. Like just like the roots of mixed martial arts. Who doesn't want to learn about this? Who doesn't want to see, an exhibition and on, Vale Tudo and hook and shoot and women's MMA and I'm getting all excited just thinking about it. Who doesn't want to see this? So the stuff like eligibility and all that, we could get into that. But this needs to happen in my lifetime within the next 5 years. David, good day, MMA Hour crew. Do you have any update on Nate Diaz? Any chance he returns to the UFC and faces Dustin? The one thing I notice is Dustin always likes or retweets something about Nate, so he clearly wants the matchup as well. He does, but I don't think it happens. I don't think Dustin's next fight is against Nate Diaz. I suspect we see Nate Diaz back in the first quarter of 2024. I don't think it's in the UFC, and I don't think it's against Dustin Poirier. Floyd. Hi, Ariel. Hi, Frank. Hi, GC and Rick. Quick one for me. With what's happened last night in the NBA game between the Warriors and the Timberwolves. Yes, did you guys see this? Draymond Green with the standing rear naked choke. Shades of Uriah Faber. There it is. Against Ivan Menjivar. Shades of Charles Dubronx throughout his career and many others. I mean, look at that. Technique wasn't on point, but he had him under the neck there. Look at that. Under the chin, I should say. Squeezing on the neck. Draymond Green. We've seen him, throw some leather as well. Not really leather, but the fist, Jordan Poole. Anyway, that was crazy. I would like to know, is there any NBA player before who tried to cross over into the MMA world, like into the UFC? There's been football players. Johnny Morton got involved. Why do I feel like there has been an NBA player? Oh, Nate Robinson was boxing. Yes?
I know Royce White was flirting with it for a while, right?
Of course, yes.
Did he ever end up doing it? I don't think he did it.
No. Yeah, we had him on the show back in the ESPN days of Iowa State fame. Never actually, I don't think he ever played a minute in the NBA because he had some issues.
Royce? Really? I think he did, but I think it was a very short career.
There is, of course, James Johnson, the black belt who played for the Miami Heat for a very long time. Boasted the fact that he was 7-0 in MMA and 20-0 in kickboxing. Some people called cap, other people didn't. Do you remember this?
I do. Yeah, he's one of those guys that was always like the notorious locker room guys you don't want to mess with, like Udonis Haslams of the world and stuff. So he always came up. I just checked real quick. He played 3 games in the NBA.
3 games and averaged 3 minutes for Sacramento.
Yeah, and was like a huge prospect coming out, highly touted, and it just didn't go his way. There was the mental health issues.
He did fight in LFA. Now it's all coming back to me. December 2021. He lost to Daquan Buckley.
Royce White. There's our guy.
Are there any others? I feel like there's another one. NBA to MMA.
I mean, you've long talked about there's the connection, the daughter of Grant Hill fighting in MMA.
Mila Hill. She's great.
That's not quite exactly on the nose, but
no. Pardon the pun.
I don't feel like NBA bodies lend themselves to MMA as much as football bodies. It's just a different thing.
I mean, the best is when you see them like punching the bag, hitting mitts and stuff, and they're so athletic, they're so talented, and they're so awkward and uncoordinated. when they do that. There was like one time I think the Rockets went to the PI and we saw, I think it was James Harden and Russell Westbrook hitting the bag. I was like, what is going on here? This is crazy. Shout out to Michael Carter-Williams, who loves to partake in a little jiu-jitsu action. Shout out to Darren Williams, who obviously competed in that boxing match a little over a year ago on the MVP card. Chris Stapps, I know, likes to do a little jiu-jitsu himself. So people dabble, but not like a full-time transition. Anyway, this gentleman goes on to write.
Darren Williams boxing.
I just said that, bro.
Oh, sorry, I missed it. I was trying to do some research on the side. Yeah, I missed it. Sorry.
Yes,
Shout out.
Frank Gore. Yeah, legend. Green already showed us his skills with a Superman punch against Poole in a training session, and now the standing RNC could be a good candidate. Yeah, he's a fighter, no doubt about that. Alex, team, the joy you continually bring to my life is incalculable. Thank you, and thanks to you. Ariel, you've had Michael Rappaport in studio. You've had Action twice. You had Steve-O. These have been outstanding interviews with deep MMA fans and also refreshing because of their trades and distance from the fighters' lifestyles. After speaking with Steve-O, please at least reach out to Anthony Keidis for an in-studio interview. A fascinating pacifist, artist, and early prelim spectator, he's always moved on stage like he trains. He even writes lyrics like, "I've got to find my way to the light heavy middleweight." I don't know if that's true, but it sounds pretty cool. I'm positive it would be a fascinating interview and well received. And if Anthony's unavailable, hit up Travis Barker because we know he's in. Hello, Travis. Hope you're sleeping well and cozy in your bed. Blessings to you all. If you type in on YouTube, Travis Barker, Ariel Helwani, there is an interview with me and him from the ESPN days. I hope it's still up. Do you guys think it's not up anymore?
I think it's there.
Ariel Helwani.
I think Alex forgot Maynard James Keenan. That was on there, and I think he erased it by accident.
Okay.
So let's put that on the list.
Yes, the Travis Barker interview is there. That was quite the thrill. I was a huge Blink 182 fan back in the day. I went through a bit of a like an alternative music day when I was a kid, like a phase. Them, Limp Bizkit. I was a big Limp Bizkit guy, believe it or not. I had the really baggy shorts. It's just one of those days when you don't want to wake up. Everything is everybody. You know that? Who else did I love? I loved the Strokes. Did you like the Strokes, Frank?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
No.
Killers?
12:51 is the time to have fun.
Big Third Eye Blind fan, from what I understand?
Sure. Chicken the Chinese chicken, watching X-Files when you head to...
3 years down.
No, it's not. Is it?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
In any event. Who was that guy you mentioned? Is that from that band that you like, Tool?
Yeah. He's fans of Nate Diaz.
I feel like it's a little too, that Tool's a little lowbrow for us, no?
Wow.
Isn't Tool like...
Wow. Wait, your mic's not working anymore.
Bar with the bar, the bang, a dang, diggy, 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 up, jump,
shout out to Kid Rock.
Shout out.
295.
By the way, Kid Rock would be a fun one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Now, this is for the questions that don't have any answers. The midnight dance. Anyway, I would love that. I love all those conversations. Those would be very fun. Anthony Keidis is Red Hot Chili Peppers, yes?
That's right.
How long shall I not
Suck My Kiss.
to separate my tongue? Is that the right song?
Yeah.
Right band?
Yes.
And then there's Can't Stop Addicted to the Bing Ding.
There you go.
And what was the TJ Dillashaw walkout near Crick? It was it? Then what to do now? Do now. You know that one?
I don't.
Come on.
Your renditions are great. I don't remember which one he walked out to.
TJ.
Actually. No, I know.
Dream of Californication.
So you know all the songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, man.
But
I don't
that's
remember which track.
Californication.
Yeah. That one. That's the.
Was that what he walked out to, though? That's the
Yes.
thing. I don't know. It was that? Okay.
He was Can't Stop Addicted to the Ding Ding. Jump on to bring the ding ding. Down one down to the bang jump on down. Remember that? Is that Californication? Or is that a different song?
No, your version.
I hope
is
Anthony
gonna
doesn't
stick with me.
see this clip.
You know yourself, Anthony. You'd love to come on. We'd love to have you. Where's he at these days? Can you book that for us, Frank?
Done and done.
Sweet.
What you were just singing is Can't Stop. Keep saying the name of the songs and while you're singing them.
Yeah, but is that not Californication? Is that a different song?
Different song.
Sheesh. All right, fine. Be that way. But yes, anyone is welcome here. We welcome all, and we'd love to talk to all of them. Thank you very much to Kraken for their support. Thanks to Frank for all the moderation, as always. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel, so please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.